Hey everybody, it's old Roger D right here on channel Donstar, and today's the day. Yes, happy anniversary Star Wars. Happy anniversary Star Wars. 40 years ago Star Wars was released. Not A New Hope, it was Star Wars. May 25th, 1977. And guess what? I was there! Yeah, I was there. Standing in line with a few friends. God, I'll never forget that. Bill, Noreen, and I think that was it. There might have been one other. Valerie, was it? Maybe not. Again, parts of it was. The only thing I remember is getting there real early, because we had heard that on the news that this movie was going to be big. And so we were like, wow, we got to get a seat to this thing. This is 77. And after Jaws came out, it was like you had to wait hours around the block waiting for to get in. And we just had an idea that this was going to be a big thing too, because it was a big science fiction thing, and the trailer looked really kind of weird and different. And early word on the thing was that the film was phenomenal. So I remember we got there at like 10 a.m. The show was going to start, was it around noon? And nobody was there at 10 a.m. So, and it was oh my God, it was a hot day, I remember. I believe we saw it at the River Oaks Theater in Illinois, where they had these beautiful, nice rocking chair seats, which were kind of cool for the 70s back then. And it was so hot, and we had to stand outside, and we just stood outside. We might have been the very first Star Wars geeks to stand in line hours before the movie came out. I don't know. But we did stay there, and then when the doors opened, we went in, and it was so cool. It was such a nice feeling to be out of that heat. And we sat down on those chairs, we got our drinks and our popcorn and whatever, and we just sat back, and blam, ba 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 ba, you know, the theme just came out. And this is the first time we actually heard, I believe it was Dolby or THX. I think it might have been THX, although it might have been just Dolby, and THX was developed and put in theaters during Empire's run. That might have been the thing. But it was the first time we were actually in a theater, because we saw movies ever since we were young. And I was in my 20s at this time, I believe, right? 77, I was born in 59, so yeah. And it was the first time we heard surround sound that was actually surround. The opening shot of the Star Destroyer going over, we heard it behind us, rumbling, coming up to us. And then when it came on screen, it was over us. And then into the screen, when we saw the engines, then it was up on the screen. It was an amazing experience. It really was. Something like I said, back in the 70s when we would see Hammer films and goofy comedies and things like that, it was all just basically the sound was up in front of the screen. But anyway, I'm going on way too long on just talking about this, but yeah, we were there first, and we saw it, and we loved it, and we went back many times. My God, I must have seen the thing over. I couldn't even put a number on how many times me and my friends saw it, or my friends, myself, or other friends that I had. We would always, there were times where we were just hanging out in my basement, which was my hangout, or we would just hang out on somebody's front porch and talk all day and goof around and play games and stuff, you know, frozen tag and things like that. Although that was a little younger then. We would just talk, and we would reminisce. We're like, you know, isn't that cool? Yeah, we watched Lost in Space. Yeah, Lost in Space was cool. Planet of the Apes, the new episode was good. It was all right. You know, and we would sit there and I go, man, remember that Star Destroyer, man, and 3PO. And we were already, because we saw it so many times, we already were doing lines from it. You know, you're too close. Stay on target. You're too close. And thank the maker, and all these different lines that people do now. Like everybody is Mr. Quotable. But back then it was weird because we were a geeky group. We were we were a bunch of goofy kids, and I'm sure other kids were doing this too in other parts of the states. But I'm just focusing on growing up in Chicago and seeing and remembering how it was back then. And like I said, we would sit there and we'd talk, and then we'd go, what time is it? It's like, oh, it's 3. Hey, you want to go see it again? Yeah, let's go. What the hell? And we would all get together and, can you drive us to this show? Or I think I was driving. Well, years later, when it was in the 80s. That's the thing about Star Wars. Star Wars was one of the first, I'm not sure about Jaws, but it was the first movie that was playing in theaters for years. You know how movies nowadays, they come out and they're in the theater for maybe a month or 2, and then you never see them, and then they come right out on DVD or Blu-ray. Back then, there was no DVD or Blu-ray. There was the beginning of VHS, which was a couple years later, the late 70s. But if you wanted to see the movie, you had to go to the shows. So you would pile in the car and you go see it again for the umpteenth time. And what I'm getting at is somewhere along that time, because the hype of it, even before the movie came out, there was talk in magazines and on news and entertainment. I was always into watching the entertainment stuff, that this thing was going to be big. It was going to be a big, big movie. People are going to love it. It's fun and different. And so I started going through, which I always did. Even when I was in high school, there was a film class I took where the teacher even says, when you go through the newspaper, the entertainment section, cut out the movie poster ads and make a book, and then bring it in at the end of the year, and we can go through and everybody would talk about it. It was a weird thing, but it was something that I started doing. And when Star Wars came out, it was I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to go every week, every day through the newspaper. And if there was an article about Star Wars, again, it wasn't A New Hope. It wasn't Episode 4. It was Star Wars. It was the only one. It was, and it had a great story from beginning to end. The hero's journey, and he gets a medal at the end, and everybody claps, and it's the end of the movie. It was just a great experience and great time for us of our age to see this thing. And like I said, I just got the idea to start cutting everything out. Everything that I would see in the newspaper, in the Chicagoland newspapers. There were 3 of them, I believe. It was Sun-Times, the Tribune, and then the Daily News, I think it was. Chicago Daily News, I think. But anyway, the reason we're all here is for this baby. Man, this is the Bible, the history of Star Wars. This is my scrapbook. You can even see there. The World of Star Wars. That was written back in 1977. And it was in an original, this is actually Scrapbook Volume 2. Not Volume 2, but Version 2. 1.2, or never mind. But this little thing, I had a scrapbook originally, and when I started doing the cutouts and putting them in, I would tape. I would use Scotch tape and tape them in. And I realized after about a year, or even less, that the portion where the tape was, this, it would discolor the actual newspaper, because the newspaper was so thin, fragile and everything. So what I did was I kind of unpeeled, even though the glue was pretty much deteriorating anyway, but it stained the corners of, and you'll see when I show you, it stained some of the corners of the newspaper articles. But then I came up and I found this nice big book, and I found these beautiful sleeves that were protective. And I basically moved those into there, and then when Empire and Jedi came out, then I just started filling this baby up. And this no longer take any more pages. There's a few pages at the very end of this thing where they're just loose because they won't fit in the little you know, the things. I'd have to get a bigger box, or get a bigger boat. I'd have to get a bigger book. But I didn't. And so, yeah, what we're all here is to look through my scrapbook, everything that I saved during the time that Star Wars was released, May 25th, 1977, on through the time Return of the Jedi came out. It's all in here, folks, with all kind of fun little stuff. And yeah, so why don't we go take a look at it? Yeah, why not? All right, everybody, here is the Bible. The old thick scrapbook from 1977, beginning in 77 and going through 83. Here is the, let me see if I can get that. There it is, my little handwritten thing, The World of Star Wars. Yeah, and we will, wait a minute, you're peeking at more. There we go. Let me see if I can center this on the video screen there. It's quite unusual how I'm doing this. The camera is up there, and it's here, and it's backwards, and I'm trying to fit it all in here. Yeah, so here we are. This is the very first article I've ever seen of the movie Star Wars. This was either in, I believe it was 1966, and I'm guessing, I'm not going to pull it out. That's what she said. But I'm guessing this was trying to like give myself a little peek. Should have researched this a little bit. But this is a Xerox copy because I didn't want to tear apart the magazine I had. But I believe this is from Fantastic Films, the magazine called Fantastic Films, from 1976. And it pretty much gives a preview of what's coming with some production art of the Tusken Raiders and the Banthas, and the original logo with the original font and logo that was originally going to be on there. And a short synopsis of the story and who's in it. Peter Cushing, and directing, and Mark Hamill. And there is one portion of this which it was the thing that really got me interested in seeing this movie. Seriously, I had seen, you know, sci-fi movies for so long growing up, and I was a teenager during this, and there was one paragraph down here that says, one effect used in Star Wars was a weapon called a lightsaber. It is a sword used for dueling. Rather than made of metal, as the name implies, the sword is a light beam. The lightsaber burns when it touches you and sends off sparks when two make contact. I thought that was a fascinating idea for because I've seen medieval, you know, with the swords, you know, the King Arthur stuff, and here was a light sword of a laser beam, which was a big deal in the 70s, lasers, and to have two lasers like crisscross and sparks, and it was just an amazing idea that I thought. So let's go on. That was my very first exposure to Star Wars. Seeing this little article, and kind of, again, like what I said in the introduction, anytime I saw something about this film, especially after this and then seeing it for the very first time, I just wanted to collect everything. I just wanted to try to collect every little. I was that way when I was a kid, and it was God loved me for saving these and keeping them. So I look back on them, and I was such a movie fanatic back then that I really had an inkling that this film was really going to be something different, something special. And when it came out, I was there first day, as I said, and here we go. This is like 2 days. It's from the Chicago Daily News, Friday, May 27th, 1977, page 17 of the Entertainment, TV, Films, Art, Music, Dance, and Theater section. This is the first article that came out 2 days after the movie premiered. And you got the opening, the main original artwork, poster art on the front page. I believe this was the front page. And then you had the very first article, at least in Chicago, that talked about the film. And Star Wars is high-flying fun. Plot, special effects are skillfully blended. And, not blended, but blended. And it's by Christine Nealand. And she goes on to talk about the history of Lucas, Star Wars, American Graffiti, THX, and then goes into kind of what the movie is and how great it is. Again, it'd be kind of curious to see what's underneath all this. To see, oh, you know what? Let me do this. I'm just going to do this. I haven't done this in years. Look at that, blockbuster. 20th Century Fox Star Wars is such a colossal hit that it is even boosting the business of competing movies. Moviegoers who can't get in to see the film are going their second or third choice movies instead, raising their box office sales. That's when you know a movie is a blockbuster. Star Wars grossed $6 million in just 44 theaters in its first 2 weeks, making it the top grossing per theater film in motion picture history. Conservative estimates are that it will gross over $100 million, and some industry observers are betting it will reach $200 million, outdoing Jaws, the #1 movie of all time. Here's another article I pretty much didn't keep, but I guess I thought this one was going to be much better. Or was much better, so I kept that. Get in there. See, this is why I don't take these things out, and they're so fragilistic and collectible, especially since they're newspapers. They are so fragile. But anyway, yeah, that was on here, and I think I said that when these articles were coming out, that the whole thing was, let me just collect everything I can about this movie and cut them out and keep the things for who knows when. I didn't know. I just felt like saving these things, and you can see some of the thing is yellowed there. Next page, Star Wars, The New Rage. The good guys win and people cheer at this movie, says Roger Simon, page 5. Darth Vader, boo. Star Wars shines. Again, another article by Roger Simon, who was a pretty astute movie critic in the 70s in Chicago. And this was the original ad. This was when it premiered. You can see I used to have an older scrapbook before I did this one, and there was I taped these things, and you can see the tape mark right there. The year's best movie. Star Wars has brought fun back to the movies and glowing demonstration that they still can make them like they used to. A grand and glorious film from Time magazine. And here is the original poster art. Here are the theaters that it premiered in Chicago with the Dolby sound system, which was a big deal back then. Yeah, it was at the Edens, the Esquire, the River Oaks, and the Yorktown theaters. And down here has the times that they aired and everything. Yeah. And here's an article from Robert L. Rose. One was our West Coast bureau chief. He's talking about how great this film was. It was such a phenomenal experience, a phenomenal film to come out of nowhere. I mean, we had Jaws in '74 and then Close Encounters. I think Close Encounters came out November of this year. No, it came out later. It came out way later. It was November when Close Encounters came out. I'd have to really research that, or you guys can research it. Star Wars takes off like a rocket, and it's a continuation of this. An imp amid monsters and midgets, Debbie Reynolds and Eddie Fisher's daughter shows her grit in outer space. Here's an article about the late Carrie Fisher. And again, introducing her to a whole generation, a whole new generation, and a whole historic genre of these movies. Carrie Fisher, man. More of the same article. Did Mama object to shampoo, by the way? Because she was in shampoo. And then they talk about Mark Hamill. And these were articles that were like every single day in a Chicago newspaper, either the Sun-Times, the Daily News, the Chicago Tribune. And I got them all. And basically I just went page by page by page, and then there was an article about Star Wars, and I cut it out and I put it in my little scrapbook. And I still have them. Here's all about Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill's climb to the stars. About Mark Hamill, the space hero who came down to Earth. All about Harrison Ford. Right here. Harrison Ford enjoys movies again. The technical wizardry wins the Star Wars. Here's a little bit that's usually in the corner of the movie theater, of the movie section. You know, Star Wars is one of the most phenomenal movies that have come out every year. A blockbuster that is creates an instant stampede to the box office. The outer space adventure grossed a fantastic $300 million in its first weeks in only 4 Chicago area theaters, and there's no let-up in sight. Chewy. Technical Wizardry. This is by Robert Kerwin, talking about how did they do that. Kind of how they did the special effects. Again, there's a little tape glue on the side of that because that was in my old scrapbook. I had the old scrapbook, which was all basically about Star Wars, A New Hope. But I still consider it Star Wars. When Empire came out is when I kind of moved everything over to this scrapbook, which was much nicer, neater. I realized the tape was discolorizing the newspaper, the paper that they used, and I just kind of like peeled it away, took the paint off and the tape off, and put it on these because it was better than having the tape glue and everything. Chicago Tribune, Arts and Fun, June 19th, 1977 is when this article about the special effects came out. Here's just another little, I just liked how that looked, and I cut it out of the newspaper. The characters. Star Wars is setting box office records from Los Angeles. Star Wars has grossed $5.2 million in theater box office receipts. Star Wars, which opened May 25th, has set box office records in each of the 45 theaters in which it opened. However, the company cautioned against prematurely estimating the effort of the film and its earnings, and said it has a strict policy of not projecting earnings for the company as a whole or for individual films. That was from the Dow Jones News Service. So even though it was making money, they were like, well, it's, let's not exceed our expectations here. And then another nice picture of the final scene. Sorry for the angle of a lot of, you probably see things off angle on this because they are not taped in. They are all pretty much, just slipped in there. This is from the Chicago Sun-Times, Friday, May 27th, 1977. Star Wars, this galaxy is full of goodies and fun. From Carol White, another little review that she gave 3.5 stars to. How sacrilegious, only 3.5 stars. Little drinky. And it was right at the height of its popularity. Right around this time, May, June, July, August. I mean, there were lines around the block. You've seen the making of, you've seen the old films, the historic films of people standing in line, people dressing up. Not so much in the costumes because they didn't come out yet, but people just loving and wanting to see this film over and over and over again. There was so much hype that 6,000 photos stolen off the set of Star Wars, and they were all pretty much publicity shots, things like this. And I actually, there was at this time in 77, 78, and even 76 in Chicago on the north side where I worked, there was a shop on the corner of one of these streets. I cannot think, might have been Rush, it might have been Whacker. I'm not sure what street it was, but there was a fantasy shop. At least we called it the fantasy shop. And you would go there and there were boxes and boxes of lobby cards from all kind of movies. They had movie posters all over the wall. They had, I remember walking in and right at the counter, if you look straight up, there was this gigantic Clockwork Orange movie poster on the ceiling. 2001, all these sci-fi, horror. You could buy movie posters there. You could buy lobby cards there. All the different sizes of movie posters, inserts, half sheets, 1 sheets, all the way up to 6 sheets, which are like billboard, huge things. And they were only like, $5, $10, It was ridiculous. And I didn't have money back then, but there was one poster that they had in the window, and I still have it to this day, and from what I understand, it is one of the rarest posters, apart from Revenge of the Jedi. And it's just the black poster with the mylar printing, the silver printing saying, "Coming to your galaxy this summer." And I picked that up, and then I also picked up some photocopies of the original lobby cards. They weren't the original lobby cards, which I got later, but they were photos of them. And when this thing came out in this scrapbook, for my friends who would look at this in my basement, I just threw them in here, and I was like, oh yeah, it's stolen. I stole this, and I stole that. And of course, there's a, she's rich. Rich beyond welcome. All right. Now we're getting near the end of the Star Wars craze. This is probably a year or two later. And Roger Ebert pretty much had a little contest going where he said, Star Wars 2, you tell us how. And Show, which is what he wrote for in the Sun-Times, wants you to write your own sequel to Star Wars. The winning entry will receive a set of 6 genuine, original, color slide transparencies from Star Wars. The first and second runner-ups will each receive a Star Wars t-shirt. The third runner-up will receive a recent science fiction novel. Entries must be limited to 350 words, no exceptions, and sent to the blah 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 Sun-Times. And another little picture here. Here's another article. It may be science fiction, but the cash is rolling in, is real. And yeah, again, everything was just, I mean, the movie was just making groundbreaking money. It was just rolling in with the cash, and it was I mean, Jaws did its thing, but Star Wars just blew everything out of the water, no pun intended, blew that shark out of the water. And, you know, just being there and witnessing it and going back, 1977, 78, 79, going back when they would reissue it and seeing it over and over and over again, because there was no video at that time. You just had to see it at the theater. It was just a comfort. It was my friends and I would always go back, especially in the summertime. The very first time we saw this was again in May of 1977, and I remember standing outside the theater. We got there extra early because we heard there were going to be crowds out the door, and we were the first ones there, first ones in line. And it was so hot, and I remember us all wearing our Star Wars t-shirts because they had already, in a mall near us, where they used to do the old t-shirt designs where you got the decal, put it down, they'd heat it up, and it stuck to the t-shirt. And all of us had like a Star Wars design or something. Mine was the Luke and 3PO on Tatooine near his homestead, and 3PO's pointing and Luke is looking. That was what I wore that day. I don't have the shirt anymore. But it was such a huge, huge thing to go back every time and rewatch it over and over again at the theater on the big screen with all the great Dolby sound, which was just phenomenal at that time. Here's a tiny little thing I saw. I would when I was at work, I would just go through all the paper, like I said, and I would go through classifieds, and for some reason I saw, what does this even say? And I thought that was really, really kind of cool. Just that somebody spent money and put that in the thing in the classifieds. I got it, and it's so deteriorated. It's so, because I believe when I had it in my original scrapbook, I just had tape all over it, which is why it's discolored like that. Of course, I don't have the date on here, but you can research it if you look at Wiki, I'm sure. Tonight, see the incredible secrets behind the most spectacular movie of our time, The Making of Star Wars, as told by C-3PO and R2-D2, a stellar spectacular. 7 p.m. on Channel 7. Yeah, I was there. I saw that first premiere when it came out, and it was fascinating. It really was fascinating to see how they put it all together. It was the very first time you saw Harrison Ford, and when they were escaping the Death Star and he's shooting the gun going bang, 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 which is hilarious to look at now.
Bang, bang. No, it's too late! Bang, bang.
But yeah, seeing it then, it was really hilarious. It was like, wow, you know, no lasers, no nothing. It was, they had to pretend. And you saw the Phil Tippett animations. I believe it was Phil Tippett who did the chessboard thing. They had a whole section on that. And that, I believe, is an extra on, I'm sure, one of the Blu-rays and DVDs. I'm sure it's out there for everybody to see. I think each movie had a special making of special that was on television. And, of course, when a big blockbuster comes around, especially a movie that is family oriented and has children so interested. The children want figures, they want toys, they want all this kind of stuff. And because Lucasfilm really didn't expect the film to be that big of a hit, you've all heard this, I'm just talking this through, they didn't have any plans to make any toys for December of '77. And this is one of the articles where they pretty much mention that. The Force will be with us at Christmas in spirit only. Star Wars toys for Christmas. Pretty much explaining that there is no toys, but you can go to your store and you could fill out a form and order them. And when they're available, they will mail them to you. And those people who still have all that, especially that background that came with all the toys, are, gosh, you guys could be millionaires right now if you still have those in perfect condition. That is so collectible. But yeah, there's the article about that. Star Wars sets off Christmas Toy Wars. Again, because, and this was Monday, November 7th, 1977. Star Wars set off Toy Wars. Here's the thing I was talking about, the background, and then all these figures. You could pre-order all of those. And the early bird certificate package from Kenner includes a lot of paper, but no action figures until February. That's when they were releasing them and sending them to you. But when you went and bought this package at the store, a pre-order, you would get this great cardboard background, which a lot of kids just threw away when they got them. But yeah, that was a pretty controversial thing. I remember a lot of my friends just like being pissed there's no figures, you know. Because we were toy collectors back then too. Not collectors, but we just had them. We got them. We built model kits. We had all that stuff, and we put them on our shelves. And it would be just kind of cool to have all these little figures of this movie that we loved and cherished so much. Here's another really kind of cool article from Roger Ebert, Successful Journey of Star Wars. Again, if you want to read this whole thing, let me know. I can send you the full transcript of the thing. And here are the answers to the Son of Star Wars, The Force is with Our Readers, Sunday, Sun Times, July 10th, 1977. Here is where the people wrote their own little Star Wars sequel. And like, what? This is some kind of weird gun the guy created, the kid. The metal composed of rads magnetic glass, box set glass for weathering of energy, glass balls, capsules for encapsulating the energy, coil and box, and computer set for automatic fire. These are fun to read. And again, let me know. I will send you the transcript of this whole thing. It's really fun. From what I understand, a lot of this stuff is not out there. I mean, everybody has, the internet has so much stuff out there, but they don't have certain rarities, certain little things just like this that were in neighborhood papers. And again, this was all Chicagoland. So, yeah. A shooting Star Wars. Remember metal airplanes with propellers that worked? Now you can buy your own kid, anyone over about 10, a Star Wars proton torpedo rocket kit that will blast reusable miniature rockets to 1,500 feet from Estes Hobby Rockets. Estes made some things there. Here's a follow-up on the Star Wars masks. I believe it was Don Post who did the masks. And there's a little, Don Post Studios. And here's an article about this. Full head masks about $40 a mask. Star Wars sequel, Toy Wars, talking more about the toys, especially things coming in the sequel. Here's an interesting, that was in the religious section of the Sun Times, Star Wars called a biblical remake. And they talk about the Force being the power of God and everything, and Obi-Wan being like the Christ figure. It's really, really crazy and wild. Well, let me go here. 20th Century Fox is the least diversified and hottest entertainment stock. Alan Ladd Jr., Fox, they're talking about, again, more money that Star Wars has been making. This is a rarity. This is the Star Wars card set that came out from Topps, I believe. Is it Topps? Kenner. It's Kenner's for Star Wars. Topps trading cards, I think. I can't read this tiny print. But this is the original wax pack that came with that very first set of cards. Which I have. I have all the series of the first 3 movies of cards, complete set. And I saved just the very first plastic wax pack covering. And there it is. Talking about the main producer, Alan Ladd Jr., he puts his faith in Star Wars. Again, continuing here. May the Force be with you. What is this? This is the story of Star Wars and the original soundtrack on an album. You can get the LP, each LP for $5.88, or you can get the tape for $6.97. Available at playback record outlets only. Wow, LP $4.88, tape $4.98. I guess it was cassette back then, 77, 78. I think cassettes were coming in, 8-tracks are going away. This was an ad that was basically in the newspaper, you know, advertising the soundtrack. Uh-oh. Here's an article from July 17th, 1977, talking about the robots. Full of facts, laws, science fiction by Dennis Wyatt, talking about the robots of Star Wars and the reality of them. And we all know this. Star Wars Holiday Special. Yeah. I'm not going to say too much of this, except this is the original page that was in the TV guide at that time. In fact, you can see here, you can see here other shows that were Guiding Light, Love American Style, General Hospital, MASH, Match Game, Hollywood Squares, and they actually have a little science fiction plus music and comedy, Star Wars Holiday Special, played on Channel 2 at 7 p.m. There's a little synopsis of it, which I won't read you, but this came from the original television guide. Get in there. From when this wonderful, extremely loved television special aired. I believe this is cut out of something else or a Xerox or something. Giving a choice, its producer asked for a PG rating instead of a G. I don't remember much of this. It might be about the arm that gets caught off in the cantina and all that. This is from June 19th of 1977. Here's just a little photo to fill up space of Obi-Wan and Vader. And I drew this. This was just kind of, I just felt, I was a drawer back then, I was a filmmaker back then, I was doing all kind of stuff. And I drew this Stormtrooper. I loved the look of the Stormtrooper. The original, this one. Not so much the others, the new ones, but the original, really liked it. And I drew this sucker, and I just thought to throw it in there. The very first, Carson Peary and Scott and Company. Kids, be the first in your galaxy to have the Force beam with you. Carson's is the first in Chicago to turn it on. This shimmering sword of red, white, or green light, shining through a blade of soft, translucent vinyl. You'll be next. The Force beam is $7.50, two for $14. Batteries not included. Go to the toy section, 6 floors, states, suburbs, except Aurora, Winnetka. You can call all hours. At $1 for delivery on orders under $9.25. $9.95. These were the first plastic replicas of the lightsabers that came out. The very first that were probably sold stateswide, and this was where you can get it. The very first time was a store called Carson Peary Scott, which I believe is no longer around. Building on a boost from Star Wars, from Richard Bonner, and again talking about how much money the movie made and how much will probably go into making a sequel, and a very much anticipated sequel. This is a magazine called The Radio Guide, and a journey from outer space to inner space on public radio, Star Wars. Listen to the adventures of Luke Skywalker as he and his friends confront the Empire in 13 exciting episodes exclusively on the National Public radio stations. Based on characters and events created by George Lucas with the music by John Williams, sound effects from the original film, features Mark Hamill and Anthony Daniels as C-3PO. The saga returns to public radio, premieres March 1981. Check your listings. NPR radio. Yeah, I remember watching or listening to this, tuning in whenever it was on, and I would record it on these gigantic big reel-to-reel tapes that I had, and I had the entire series, and you can now get it on CD. You can now find it online, no doubt, the entire radio series of all of the Star Wars movies. But this was the very first Star Wars. It wasn't called A New Hope, it was Star Wars. And here is the radio guide from 1981, Volume 9, Number 3. They made the cover, Star Wars Comes to Radio. And I just had that slipped in there with the original ad. Yeah, just kind of, I don't know why I care. I'm just going to straighten that out there. Okay. Starfleet Command was a fan company where you could get kind of collectibles like buttons and patches and posters and framed pictures and things like that. And Starfleet Command from Burbank, Illinois, Burbank, California, the first of a great new line of Star Wars collectors items from Starfleet Command. You can get buttons, May the Force be with you, just the movie logo Star Wars, Darth Vader lives. You can get Star Wars bumper stickers, May the Force be with you, Star Wars logo, Darth Vader lives. And you can get Star Wars posters, vibrant Star Wars posters, Luke, Princess Leia, Darth Vader, background looming overhead. That's the main poster. The second poster was X-Wing fighters with insert of Star Wars characters. They're 20 by 28 for $3.50 each. And then you can get transfers of Vader, poster art, Luke Skywalker and C-3PO, and an X-Wing fighter. I believe the transfers are the iron-ons, that you would get a blank TV set, you would get a blank t-shirt and put the iron-on on your shirt, iron it, the heat would melt it to the t-shirt, and you'd have a nice little decal. Allow 4 weeks to delivery. I'm curious what's on the other side. Let's take a quick peek. Nothing. So this is a Xerox. This was a Xerox of this ad that was on the back of one of the fanzine things. And again, once again, another marvelous Star Wars article. Just talking about it again. It's just, you know, Lucas will become an artist rather than a master craftsman if he finds his style, which means not so much a look, however handsomely appropriate, but themes are more creative than recreative, that express himself and that reach a new refinement of form. Yeah, little talk about that. This is a Xerox, I believe, from a magazine. I'm not going to look at it. I'm trying to see from the side, but it's June 1977, June 17th. The movie that is out of this world. Probably just a reprinting of some other articles from other states. It has nothing to do with Earth. Earth isn't even mentioned. Here's an extensive interview with Harrison Ford. I'm not sure what newspaper this came from. I have an inkling it was from the Tribune, the Chicago Tribune. And it's an interesting little interview. And of course it was on both sides, so part of it, like these, are Xerox of what was on the other side of those. And it goes on, it goes on. Again, an interesting talk with Harrison Ford about being in the movie. There's some more, shot of Harrison. This is 2 reviews of Star Wars, one from Murray Bischoff and one from Bruce Sapp. And again, I haven't read these in years. If you want to read them, let me know. As I've been saying in this thing, I will send you a transcript of each one of these. Here's the rest of it. And I finally came out with the masks, the Star Wars masks from Don Post Studios. And here they were. You were able to get 3PO, a Stormtrooper, Chewbacca, and Vader. I did get the Vader one. I had the Vader one for so long until I gave it to like a nephew of mine, a kid that was growing up, and he was a big Star Wars fan. And this was like maybe 10, 15 years ago. I says, hey, here, why don't you just take this? Mask is not intended to be as a protective helmet of any kind. Anyway, yeah. Just cool to have the little advertisement. These were definitely in a magazine. Again, it might have been Fantastic Films, like I got the very first one. But I thought it was fascinating and thought it would be a cool little addition just for my scrapbook. And it was basically like a look at every one of the weapons from the movie. There's the Jawa's droid stun gun, Chewbacca's weapon, the crossbow, Han Solo's blaster, the gaffy stick, Princess Leia's blaster, the lightsabers, each one Luke's, Obi-Wan, the Stormtrooper weapons, and then the more Stormtrooper weapons. Okay, that all goes together there. And there was a big fanzine that came out after Star Wars was a hit called Bantha Tracks. And it was a newsletter where you can get all, it was a fan club, you got all kind of little amenities. And every month you would get one of these fanzines in the mail, and they would talk about what's coming soon, what is going to be the new thing, or what to expect. And here they're talking, it's an interview with Harrison Ford, and they're talking about the sequel to Star Wars. And they tease this little image here of Harrison Ford as Han Solo with the hoodie and all the snow and everything, which was really cool because it was like, there's gonna be another Star Wars. What are they gonna do? It's gonna be amazing. Again, here's the whole talk with him. Here's a article from Nikki White about the Japanese influences in Star Wars, and of course, you know, samurai and all that fun stuff. In fact, the cantina scene is very much recalls in atmosphere parts of Yojimbo. Yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Some more stuff, Hidden Fortress they talk about. Here's some questions and answers. Where can I write to the cast? Is there any way to get a copy of the script? How many miniatures were built? When will Empire Strikes be released? On 17th May 1980, or 18th May in the United States. That was London. Membership to join Bantha Tracks. This is something everybody was expecting. They released Star Wars. Now on video cassette. That's the cover. This is the back of this, pretty much talking about the story. It's now available for private screening, 20th Century Fox vibrant stereo on VHS, and the highest standards of technology, materials, and work meant of this unrevealed space fantasy winner of 6 Academy Awards is available on Beta 2 and VHS 4 formats. Yeah, and boy, this thing sold like hotcakes. This was big. Now we're going into Empire Strikes Back. Glacier is setting for Star Wars sequel. Talking a little preview of where they're filming. Here's the little map where they are to do the snow scenes. Here's one of the very first shots they released from Empire Strikes Back, which is some rebels by the giant cannon. And here's the poster art, the original poster art, not the teaser, because the teaser was just Vader's head, but the original poster art that I saw in the theater when I went was this, which is still my favorite Empire poster art. Now in your galaxy, this was released. What's on the other side of this? I'm curious. I haven't looked at this in years, guys. I'm just curious to see what was on the other side. Feels like it's from the magazine. Alcohol! Yeah! I'm just going to leave this here. I'll put it back later. And again, the Tribune or Sun-Times did a weekend section where they talk about The Empire Strikes Back, the force behind the Star Wars sequel. From graffiti to sci-fi, his successes out of the world by Gene Siskel. Here's a big article about the new movie coming out. Continuing. This was from the Chicago Tribune Arts and Fun section, May 4th, 1980. These were great. I love these. These were so glossy. Stills, photo cards, Topps photo cards, and they weren't the small ones, they were big ones. You can kind of see what each card was. And I had them all, but I don't have them in here. I just selected like some doubles that I had and threw it in here. And Siskel previews The Empire. It's Topps Star Wars, he says. It's not a review, but it's another little article, well, big article about Empire Strikes Back. And here are the reviews. Gene Siskel, Empire on sequel, footing with the Star Wars magic. Hello Yoda, 3.5 stars, Siskel gave it. Flawed but fantastic, Empire Strikes Ahead. Flawed. I laugh at that, especially since that's considered to be the best Star Wars movie of all time. It just kind of makes me laugh. But still, it's great. Hit or myth proposition. The Empire Strikes Back with Less Force by Abe Peck, whoever that is. He gave it only 3 stars. Here's his review. Star Wars 2, is the Force still with us? All the naysayers are coming out. Oh, how can it be better than Star Wars? How can it be better than the first one? Are you kidding? Some people just didn't get it. Here's another one of those cards. How do you turn down Star Wars? It's a period piece, like something doing Shakespeare. Billy D. Williams is explaining why he chose to integrate outer space by accepting the role of Lando Calrissian. Filmed on 64 sets in England and a Norwegian glacier over 6 months of the year. Empire Strikes Back returns with all of the familiar characters. Less evident, but still around for moral guidance is Obi-Wan. Yeah, talking about the movie. Sunday Sun-Times, May 18th, 1988. George Lucas believes in the force of myths and fairy tales, in which he's talking about how the films are representing the ancient myths and stories. Big article with him, interview with Lucas. This is another little article about the music of Empire and Star Wars by Charles Schrader. Yeah. Guinness really appears the same with Obi-Wan. Close-up by Roderick Mann, pretty much talking about how Obi-Wan is hardly in the thing. But he's still an important character. There's the rest of the article. Here are 2 more of those giant cards that were great, those glossy cards. Divorces with Star Wars sequel by Mark Potts. His article about it. Here are the movies and money. This is how the production costs, gross income, net income, Lucas's profit, the merchandise spin-off revenues, copies of the paperback. Oh, I gotta mention real quick. I remember reading the paperback to Empire Strikes Back. I was doing theater, community theater, and when I wasn't on stage, I would sit in the back and I read Empire Strikes Back, pretty much like I read Star Wars, the original, who is it, Dean something, Star Wars, which was fun. But I remember just before having to go on stage for one of my scenes, I got to the Luke, I am your father.
And I just kind of like, my eyes widened and I looked around and it's like, oh my God, I want to tell everybody. But none of the theater people were Star Wars fans and they couldn't give a care less what I was going to tell. And I wanted to tell everybody. I wanted to run around and say, it's Luke, Darth Vader's Luke father, Darth Vader's Luke father. And nobody cared. Nobody cared. So, I'll never forget that. That was kind of a spoiler because I saw that before I saw the movie. And then I went with a group of friends to this beautiful theater and we saw it. And it was one of the best times seeing a sequel because every time any of the main characters came on screen, Chewbacca, Han Solo, Luke, there was applause throughout the entire audience. And it was weird being in that audience knowing what was going to happen at the end and knowing the big secret was going to be revealed. It was a bizarre time. It really was kind of interesting and bizarre. Here's another one of those stills with Yoda. Empire producer strikes back, breaking down the price of a $4 movie ticket, basically showing what everything was going to. Empire's producer also strikes back. That's the same thing. This is on its side, waiting for Yoda. 3 years ago, Time Associate. Gave a sneak preview, blah, blah, blah. No sequel has been awaited with greater anticipation than Empire Strikes Back. It features most of the original characters plus a delightful addition, a 2-foot-tall wizard named Yoda. An article talking about Yoda. There's the rest of it. Another still. And here is, just like I got from the original Star Wars, this is the original newspaper flyer, poster for Empire during its sixth smash week. And you could actually see it in 70 millimeter, which I did at the, where is it? I don't have it here. Orland Square? I think it was the Orland Square. But you can see it at the Esquire, Ford City, Golf Mill, Norwich, Orland Square, the Ridge Plaza, River Oaks. Oh no, it was River Oaks we saw it at because they had those rocking chair seats. Woodfield and Yorktown. But there was the poster, which I have up right now actually. Talking more about Empire, blah, 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 blah. Two more of the, maybe they are all in here. They might all be in here, all those things. Oh, here we go. I was buying the toys. Yeah, I was. And here's the back of one of them. Let's see what I bought. Let's see what this is the back of. What toy did I buy? Oh, it was an Imperial Snowtrooper. And I ripped it off the whole thing. Just give me it. And it was only $3.50, $3.49 is what this was when I bought it originally. And if I saved it, it would have been worth even more because the thing here has not been punched out. Oh, what an idiot. But here you can see all the characters you are able to buy and the die-cast ships and toys. They were ready with Empire. They were ready with all the toys, and they sold like hotcakes. Exclusive, the secret plot of the new Star Wars. I do believe, yeah, this is Weekly World News from May 29th of 1980. Before the movie released, Weekly World News is known as the newspaper shred. You know, it was like Bat Boy and things like that, and they always had fake stories. And this was supposed to give away the plot of Empire, and it doesn't. It's fun to read. Again, let me know if you want to see it, but it's just garbage. Here, Millions. This is from the business area. May 4th, 1980. Toy makers are anxious for Empire to strike because they know those toys are going to sell. Here's another toy thing. I had the laser rifle. I had the Slave One. I had the Falcon. I had a TIE Fighter. And I had a Star Destroyer. Those die-cast vehicles. And I don't have them anymore. They got disappeared. never get married. Never get married if you're a collector, because she always says, get rid of that. Why are you saving that? And because of love, you do. What did I buy here? Oh, here's the Slave One. So yeah, this was the original Slave One packaging that I bought for $5.30. And I just threw it away, and it's worth like $1 million right now. I don't know what it's worth, but I had it. And we get to return. Tuesday, May 17, 1983, a star would go to war for this ticket. Everybody wanted to see the third movie. Star Wars was so big. Empire was even bigger. Left everybody on a cliffhanger. What the hell are you doing? Where's Han Solo? What's going to happen? Luke lost his hand. Vader's out there saying he's his father. Yoda is there. There is another. What? So everybody, here's an article from Roger Simon talking about how anticipated it is. An early peek at Jedi, and a rare interview with George Lucas. As the movies went on, Lucas didn't want to talk. He talked less and less to the press in interviews and stuff, so that's why it was a rare one. The gold bikini, yes. Jedi Peak, surprises and fun. A new villain, Luke's challenge, from Gene Siskel. Nice article here by him. Trivia of a forceful intergalactic nature by Larry Finley. Pretty much talking about the characters, it looks like, as I'm skimming over that. After 10 years, Lucas is taking a break. And of course, once it came out, Chicago was starstruck. It's Return of the Jedi. I won't even wait in line to see it. Why would he say that? I would even wait in line. Of course you're going to. Here's the Plitt Esquire Theater, closed for private screening. These people got a little look at it before it even was released. This was the cover of Time magazine at the time that Jedi came out, and a bit of an article here from it, and a couple of stills I cut out from Time magazine. I still have a complete Time magazine, this one. I bought two because I knew I was making this scrapbook. So I knew I was going to cut up one and keep one as a collectible. I believe I got a Newsweek. I got People, I believe. A couple of magazines that just basically talked about the Star Wars phenomenon. Article reveals plot of new Jedi film. Lucasfilm executives in an uproar, but claim magazine story is full of hearsay and innuendo. From Mr. Darth to Mr. Clean, Screens Groups. This is another one. It looks like a Xerox. It is a Xerox from March 23rd of that year. The Herald Examiner, the New York Daily News were heresy. People were just predicting what the new movie was going to be about even before it was released. And of course, the year it came out, Friday it was released, or Wednesday maybe. I'm not sure the actual date release of Jedi. But the Sunday paper had this in its best bets, which was something that was a weekly thing. They always highlighted the big movie of the year. And best bets, Return of the Jedi, lives up to the hype that preceded it. It's magnificent fun and a feast for the eyes with all kinds of unforgettable characters, magnificent space battles, and a wonderful breakneck chase through the forest on airborne motorcycles. You'll leave the theater halfway believing in this crazy galactic empire long ago and far, far away at local theaters. U.S. catches Jedi fever. Of course, everybody loved it. Everybody was crazy about it. Critics give their returns on the Jedi, and here's talking about how much money the movie made. Here again, as I did with the last two, is the original newspaper article that showcased in the Chicago newspaper. It doesn't have the theaters down below because I believe it was all over the place. I believe when Jedi came out, it was everywhere. But there's the original thing. Roger Ebert's famous review, which came out in the Chicago Sun-Times Wednesday, May 25th, 1983. Jedi is Awesome, Wondrous Journey into the Imagination by Roger Ebert. He gave it 4 stars. Here's his entire article, which you can see on his website. But again, if you need a transcript, this is an article that says Jedi director hired to keep film costs down to earth. Sideways, and here's more. And here's how much money each movie made. Jedi's Billy D. Williams, sex appeal you cannot buy. Here's a nice little interview, an article about Billy D. Billy D, Billy D, Billy D. Jedi forces out old attendance records. It was breaking more. It was surpassing all the other previous movies. And here's a photo opinion of what people thought of Jedi. And this guy, Stan Smagaz, I worked for. He was my boss at the time. At the very time. And the only reason I added this was because of him. And he says, yeah, they're making too much out of it. It's not that good. But with a lot of advertisements, they can bring in people who are undecided about seeing it. The only 2 movies were okay, but nothing to rave about. That's my fucking boss, man. Boss was an idiot. And I hated working for him. And of course he didn't like Jedi. And here we go. No Stars in This Galaxy by Mike Royko. He talks kind of about the hype being crazy because it was only potheads that were going to see the movie. Seriously, seriously. But explain all the young adults who have gone crazy over Star Wars films. Marijuana. What? That's the only logical answer. They get themselves zonked out before they go in. 5 minutes into the film, they're all saying, wow, look at that. Oh, that's great. It's great. I'm glad I got this article. I don't know if it's even online. Jedi sets its first day record, June 2nd, 1983, talking about how it just went crazy. Here's the People article about Carrie Fisher and Jedi and the Gold Bikini. Trouble. Uta duta. No. Jedi director Richard Marquand emerges from Lucas's shadow, talking about his direction. Cashing in on Star Wars is now a $1 billion baby for one smart toy company. Article about the toys, the new toys coming out, how much they're going to make. Here they are. Article, Boy Who Got Movie Wish loses cancer battle. Yeah, Stanley dies less than 2 days after watching Return of the Jedi. I thought this was pretty poignant. He was a fan who had cancer. He was only 6 years old, and yeah, he was able to see it. Lucas and Lucasfilm and them let him see it, I guess in the hospital, and he died 2 days later, but at least he was able to see it. The Force is with it, talking about the right here, it's all talking about the, again, the craziness, how there are Star Wars cookies, there are Star Wars cereal, everything is Star Wars now. It's everywhere. This is from Time, June 13, 1983. Here's another shot just from taken there. Us Magazine talks about Return of the Jedi, talks about Yoda's Star Warriors ride the Force to their final death duel with dastardly Darth. That's just the cover. Here are some shots from inside. Jedi, the Force is with him, but George Lucas is ready to rebel against his out-of-world success. You know, now I'm thinking maybe this is the article where he talks about he's going to do 3 more. Not sure. Ask for the transcript. I'll send it to you. You guys can check it out. Here's more of the article. Xerox copy. Carrie Fisher needs a strong Force to keep her rolling. I'm sure there was something on the back I wanted. more than this article, so I just Xeroxed that. I think it was this. Talking about Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill's skills, new acting heights, mastering Mozart's musical styles. This is his this is an article where he's going to do Wolfgang Amadeus. He was going to tour the theater community. I was working at the theater at the time at the Blackstone when he came and performed this Amadeus show, and that's when I met him. That's when I got his autographs on my Star Wars poster and talked to him a tiny little bit about Jedi. But yeah, that's what this is. This is a little interview with Han Solo, Harrison Ford. Another little picture from the thing. Here we go, that's the article. Another one of those cards. I'm sure now that I'm thinking, every single one of those cards are in this scrapbook. Oh wow, let me just show you this a little better. This is my model kit. Of course, I loved building model kits. And this is the R2-D2 I made. It was a model kit, and I wish this was in color because I really put so much into the painting to make him beautifully colorful, and then the weathering on the thing to make him look weathered. I also had a C-3PO, but I loved the R2-D2. I really loved this. And my brother took a nice big 8x10 shot of that when it was sitting up on a shelf, and I'm glad I have it. And I threw it in the old, I'm going to put that here, scrapbook. Let me hold these aside. When the Star Wars phenomenon was going on, especially Return of the Jedi, there was a comic strip called Funky Winkerbean. And every day for a long time, they did comic strips of the Star Wars universe. And I basically cut them all out and threw them in there. I'm not gonna, if you can pause it and read them, that's great. What's this one? John Darling. John Darling is another comic strip that did that. It became a normal thing. Star Wars had become such a phenomenal thing in the world that everywhere you looked, there was something Star Wars. Comic strips in the newspapers, television references to the movies. Everything you can imagine was Star Wars oriented. Variety shows that I'm not sure. I'm just going to name some names. I don't think they did them, but Bob Hope, the Osmond Family, things like that. They had these sketches. Carol Burnett Show. They had these sketches, Star Wars sketches that it was so much. Television had to. We're trying to compete with Star Wars at the theaters, and but these were a few of them. And here's the back of another toy card that I saved. I had this droid, and I'm wondering if this is what I have. It might have been this droid, the recon mission droid, because I didn't have the snow speeder. I didn't have anything else. I know I had that, so that's what this probably was. Collect all the average figures. It doesn't say. Probe droid. It had to have been the probe droid because it has the synopsis and the picture of it. So I'm sure I had the probe as I'm belching. Excuse me. Probe droid. That was pretty disgusting. And there you have it. Oh, you say, what were those things I pulled out? Well, remember I told you how Star Wars was such a big hit that there were iron-on decals that you would get at Walgreens. You would go anywhere, and there was this section where you could buy just T-shirts. There was a weird thing in the 70s where you could just buy a TV shirt or a shirt, and you had all these choices. You can have a Skull, you can have Hell's Angels, you can have Led Zeppelin, you could have anything you wanted put on that T-shirt as an iron-on. And it was basically just whatever color shirt you had. Mine was usually black. And there was the time when I went and I got a whole bunch of Star Wars shirts. And you could also buy these decals that went on shirts separately. They were on like little wax pages, and you just kept them. I, for some reason, just started, I did a few T-shirts. Like I said, I had the one with 3PO pointing and Luke looking on Tatooine. My other buddy had the main movie poster, which is the helmet, the Hildebrand poster. And there was a bunch of others, and there were a few, not all of them, but there were a few I got and I saved. And then a few years later, probably during Empire or Jedi, I just got some black material and I ironed them on, and then I just cut around them, and I was like, I'm just going to keep these. Maybe it was the scrapbook thing. Maybe it was all that. But I just kept them. And I don't have a lot, like I said, but I do have a few. Here's one of them. C-3PO. I believe you got this in the 70s. As from the type and the colors and the sparkles. And again, it's just like on felt. I just ironed it on, or my mom did actually, and then I cut it around there and I kept it. And it was like, there's a nice little keepsake. Because you outgrow TV shirts, you really do. Here's a Han Solo and Chewie that I had. You could have had this on your TV, I keep saying TV, T-shirt. Again, just ironed on material. Here's an R2-D2, because I had 3PO. R2-D2 with its name and his sparkling, I don't know if you can see the sparkles, but the sparkleness there. And then the last one that I actually got was a Stormtrooper, because as I said, I loved the look of the Stormtrooper helmet, which I did eventually buy just as a mask years later. And again, I gave it to another child relative that was just getting into Star Wars, and I was like, well, I'm not going to need it anymore. And it was worth a lot because it was original, but I felt, let me just give it to him. And I told him, I told his parents, keep this because this is going to be super special in the future. And again, just on black. So there we go, man. Now you've seen it. Now we've come to the end. The end is near. We're so glad we had this time together. Star Wars Scrapbook. It is right now May 25th, 2017. And this was started 1977 when Star Wars originally made its premiere. And I'm really glad I saved this. All right, let me cut to a full shot because I can't talk anymore.
So there you have it, everybody. My old Star Wars scrapbook. Boy, I gotta apologize. I got a little touched at the end there. Not touched, but I am. Got a little emotional there. Just kind of got to the end there, and I was like, oh, this really does mean a lot to me. Wow, just going through it was, but it was fun. It was fun because it was a while. This thing has been sitting in my box years and years back, stored, never thrown it out. You know, I'd thrown out wedding albums of my marriages, but when I came across the Star Wars scrapbook, nope, not throwing that out. That I'm going to keep for some reason because I thought it was great. And I also have all the Topps bubblegum cards, a nice little scrapbook of all those, every series of the 3 movies. I might show that someday. Maybe that'll be a second video to this. A sequel, as it will. Hey viewers, Roger D back again real quickly with just a side little thing. I didn't realize until I finished the scrapbook and I was putting it all together, because I mentioned the Topps cards, I dug out my big Topps card Bible, which has all the all the cards in it, and I totally forgot, but in the back of them I found some more those t-shirt decals that I totally forgot I had. Well, I totally forgot I had those. Did we just move? I think we moved a little bit. I totally forgot about those until I got to the end of the scrapbook, but I just thought I'd show you the rest of the ones that I did have. And I'm just going to insert this in there and then continue with the final. These actually weren't put on felt. These were actually the ones that you would buy. These could still be used. They're on the wax paper, I think is what it is, because it does have a weird feeling to it. And if I had a blank t-shirt, I could iron these on. But I just wanted to show you, I had a few of them. And yeah, have the old 3PO and R2. Nothing on the back there. These, again, I guess I had these in here and they wouldn't fit in the scrapbook. Majority of these are from Empire. Empire Strikes Back movie poster. There we go. Nothing on the back. Here's another one. It's more of a sideways Empire Strikes Back decal. I'm trying to, there we go. Another Empire Strikes Back, a Vader with 2 Stormtroopers. That light I have is acting goofy. Oh, here's Yoda. Terrible Yoda. Got a Yoda one. And I got a Darth Vader and his TIE Fighter. All sparkly, sparkly. Look at that. And on the back we got a sparkly, sparkly Boba Fett. Bounty Hunter. Of course. Anyway, that was it. It was just something real little. And like I said, I forgot I had these. And they are going to go back in the scrapbook now. As opposed to in the cards book. What do I call it? The Star Wars card book? I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to pop in here and show you the rest of those. I have bunch of other Star Wars collectibles that I'll probably show along the way, but since I mentioned these in the scrapbook thing, I figured I'd just show you the rest of the decals, t-shirt decals that I did have. So anyway, that's all. I'm going back to me. Go watch me now as I say goodbye. Bye. But yeah, that's the scrapbook. I'm very happy that I saved it all these years. It really is something looking back on it. Just different things about having an African American in Star Wars. Having Lucas announced that he was planning to do all these movies that he then later changed and says, no, I never planned to do that. I mean, all the articles, the actual reviews, movie reviews, the Star Wars Biblical Remake, or a it's really a biblical story. Damn, now I'm getting the belches. But yeah, I'm so glad. I'm so glad I still have this. I wish I had more of the decals. I really do wish, because there were so many of them that came out. I still have my Star Wars button, May the Force Be With You, which they handed out at the theater. And I got that flyer, that like 11 by 19 flyer that they gave out at the theater. Still got that packed away somewhere. And I got some other Star Wars collectibles. I got a few of the figures and things like that. Nothing on cards, of course, because back then no one thought about saving, you know, the cards. You just ripped it out. And I want to play with the figure or the ship, you know. So anyway, I got a bunch of that stuff too. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little trip down memory lane and my scrapbook. It's like I said, I'm kind of proud that I did it. I never understood why I was going to do it. Maybe I thought sometime in the future. I would never have thought about doing this, being on YouTube and doing videos for millions of people, whoever watches this thing. I mean, no, there's millions of people out there watching YouTube, but not millions of people are watching me. But anyway, yeah, so any last words? Oh, like I said in the video during the thing, if anybody wants to see the complete articles or read the actual reviews and things that are in my scrapbook, I used to have a website called Roger's Basement, which is no longer up. And I actually did a page by page of the scrapbook, and I transposed all the writings, and they're all up there, easy to read and everything. And I still have the website saved, even though it's not up online. So if anybody really wants to see and read the actual articles, just let me know, contact me, and I will email you those probably in a Word document or something, so you could at least see, you know, and read along with what was going on, because this would be like a 10-hour video if I read all through those. But yeah, so that is available to anybody that is interested, so please let me know, and we will move on from there. But thank you everybody for watching this video. Give me a thumbs up. Why not? Why not? If you just stumbled across this video and because you saw the Star Wars title and you're a Star Wars fan, just give me a subscribe. Check out my other videos if you want. You might like me. And yeah, that's all I can say other than Star Wars. I hate that little thing sticking out there. This one sticks out too. Hi, I'm C-3PO. Can you see me? Get me out of here. My Star Wars scrapbook. It weighs a ton. It actually does. But I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, that's it. Everybody, may the Force be with you. And we'll see you all in the next video.